Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Dian Faiz. Today I want to present about comparison between environmental management standard. So this is my group members, which is Aikmal Danish and Muhammad Danish Rahimi. So for the introduction, ISO 19001 and ISO 40001 are the most frequently used standard in the world for quality management system, respectively, and the occupational health and safety management system standard, which is ISO 45001, was recently published. This standard have undergone revision in the past 3 years from 2015 to 2018. ISO 45001 is the most current to be published in 2018. Class 4, Context of the organization. The three ISO, which is ISO 40001, ISO 19001 and ISO 45001, use the same standard, which is 4.1, understand the organization and its context, which is for ISO 40001, the organization must identify internal and external factors that are essential to its objective and that will have an impact on the way it executes its environmental management system. Circumstances impacting operationally harming the organization are examples of such challenge. For ISO 19001, the organization must identify both internal and external challenges that are essential to its objective and strategic direction, which may hinder the achievement of the quality management system desired result. For ISO 45001, the organization must identify both internal and external factors that are essential to its objective and that will have an impact on its ability to achieve the objective occupational health and safety, which is OSH management system. Next, ISO 40001 and ISO 19001 use the same, which is 4.2, understand the needs and expectations of interested parties. ISO 40001, the subclauses requires the organization to decide if the interested parties are essential to EMS, what the appropriate standard and expectations are satisfied by the interested parties, and how the needs and expectations suggested become its compliance duties. For ISO 19001, the organization must decide if the requirement of the interested parties are relevant to the quality management system and whether the interested parties themselves are relevant. For the ISO 45001, use other to ISO 19001 and ISO 40001, which is 4.2, understand the needs and expectations of workers and other interested parties. The organization will identify any other interested parties that are essential to the OSH management system, as well as the needs, expectation of those workers. It will also evaluate any potential future needs and expectation, regulatory requirement and other requirement. 4.3, determining the scope environmental management system used for ISO 40001, which is external and internal issue, refer to 4.1. Compliance obligation refer in 4.2. Its organization, unit, function and physical boundaries, its activity, product and service, its authority and ability to exercise control and influence. 4.3, determining the scope, quality management system and its process used for ISO 19001, which is the external and internal issue, refer to in 4.1. Next, the requirement of relevant interest parties, refer to in 4.2. The product and service of the organization. For the ISO 45001, 4.3, determining the scope of management system, consider the external and internal issue, refer to in 4.1. Take into the requirement, refer in 4.2. Take into account the plan and perform work-related activities. 4.4, Environmental Management System ISO 40001, which the organization shall establish, implement, maintain and continuously improve an EMS, including the necessary process and their interaction in accordance with the requirement of this international standard in order to achieve the intent outcome, including improving its environmental performance when operating and maintaining the EMS. The organization must take into account the information acquired in 4.1 and 4.2. For 4, 4.4 quality management system and its process used for ISO 9001, which 4.4.1 the organization shall establish, implement, maintain and continually improve quality management system, including the process need and their interaction in accordance with the requirement of the international standard. 4.4.2 the organization shall maintain the documented information to support the operation of its process and retain the documented information to have confidence that the process are carried out as planned. 4.4 OSH management system used for ISO 45000, which the organization shall establish, implement, maintain and continually improve on OSH management system, including the process, need and their interaction in accordance with the requirement in this document. Clause 5, which is leadership. ISO 40001 use 4.1 leadership and commitment, which are taking accountability for the effectiveness. 2. Ensuring that the environmental policy and environmental objectives are established and compatible. Ensuring the integration of EMS requirement into the organization process. Ensuring the resource need for EMS are available. Communicating the importance of effectiveness environmental management and of confirming environmental management system requirement. Ensuring that the environmental management system achieve its intent outcome. Directing and supporting person to contribute to the effectiveness of environmental management system. Promoting continual improvement. Next, supporting other relevant management roles. For the ISO 9001 use 5.1.1 general, which is top management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment by taking accountability, ensuring the quality policy and objective are established, ensuring the integration of the quality management system requirement, promoting the use of process approach and risk-based thinking, ensuring the resource need and the intent result are achieved, communicating the importance, engaging, directing and supporting person, promoting improvement and supporting other relevant management roles. And 4.1.2 customer focus, which are ensuring that customer applicable statutory and regulatory requirements are determined, understood and consistently met. The risks and opportunities are determined and addressed. The focus is maintained. For the ISO 45001 use 5.1 leadership and commitment, which are top management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect to OSH management system. Commitment provide the necessary requirement or needed. And lastly, leadership provide physical, financial resource and support the internal outcome of the OSH management system. So this is 4.2 environmental policy used for ISO 40001, which are top management shall establish, implement and maintain the environmental policy that within the defined scope of its environmental management system, which are appropriate to the purpose and context of the organization, including the nature, scale and environmental impact of its activities, product and service. Provide a framework for setting environmental objective. Includes a commitment to the protection of the environment. Includes a commitment to continual improvement of the EMS to enhance environmental performance. The environmental policy shall be maintained the documented information, be communicated within the organization, be available to interest parties. 4.2.1 establish the quality policy used for ISO 9001, which are top management shall establish, implementing and maintain quality policy that is appropriate to the purpose and context and support its strategic direction. Provide a framework, includes a commitment and to continual improvement of the quality management system. And 5.2.2 communicating the quality policy. The quality policy shall be available and be maintained as documented information, be communicated, understood and applied within the organization, be available to relevant interested parties as appropriate. 4.2 OSH policy used for ISO 45001, which are top management establish, implementing and maintain OSH policy which are related to the interested parties. policy is available as documented information relevant and appropriate. For the last clause, 5.3, organization roles and responsibility and authorities, all the ISO which 40,001, ISO 19,001, and ISO 45,001 use the same which clause, which ISO 40,001 top management shall ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned and communities within the organization. Top management shall assign the responsibilities and authority for ensuring that the environmental management system conform to the requirement of this international standard, reporting on the performance of the environmental management system, including environmental performance to top management. For the ISO 9001, which are top management shall assign the responsibilities and authority for ensuring the quality management system conformity, ensuring the process delivery intent output, reporting on the performance and opportunities, ensuring the integrity of the quality management system. For the ISO 45,001, which are top management shall assign the responsibilities and authorities for ensuring that the OSH management system conform to the requirement of this document. And lastly, reporting on the performance of the OSH management system.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Danish Rahimi bin Azman, and now we will continue with clause 6, which is planning. Firstly, I will explain about 6.1.1, which is general for ISO 14001. The organization shall establish, implement, and maintain the process needed to meet the requirement in general environmental aspects, compliance, obligation, and planning action. For ISO 9001, the organization shall consider through the external and internal issue, also determine risks and opportunities that need to be addressed. Next, for ISO 45001, the organization shall consider the external and internal issues, requirement of interested parties, determine the risks and opportunities that need to be addressed. Next, for the subclause 6.1.2, 6.1.3, and 6.1.4, in ISO 40001 is about environmental aspects, compliance obligation, and planning action. For ISO 9001, the organization shall plan the action to address these risks and opportunities, integrate and implement the actions into its quality management system process, and evaluate effectiveness of this action. Meanwhile, for ISO 45001, it's about hazard identification, determination of legal requirement and other requirements, and planning to action. For the next subclause, which is 6.2, ISO 40001 focus on environmental objectives, while ISO 9001 focus on quality objectives, and ISO 45001 focus on OSHA objectives. For subclause 6.2.2 in ISO 40001, is planning actions to achieve environmental objectives, while in ISO 9001 is planning actions to achieve QMS objectives, and planning in 6.3, and for ISO 45001 is planning to achieve OSHA objectives. Next, we move to clause 7, support. For 7.1, which is resources, it focuses on the establishment, implementation, maintenance, and continual improvement of environmental management system for ISO 40001, while for ISO 9001, same as ISO 40001 but continual improvement of quality management system, and same goes to ISO 45001 but continual improvement of OSHA management system. For the next subclause, which is competence, ISO 40001 focuses on the necessary of persons doing work under its control that affects in environmental performance. For ISO 9001, the necessary of a person doing work under its control that affects their performance and effectiveness of its quality management system. And for ISO 45001, the necessary workers that can affect its OSHA performance. For 7.3, which is awareness for ISO 4001, the organization must make sure that anyone working for it is aware of its environmental policy, key environmental considerations, and any associated actual or potential environmental impacts. While for ISO 9001, the organization shall ensure that all working for it are aware of its quality policy, its quality targets, and how they may contribute to the success of its quality management system, including the advantages of better performance. ISO 45001, worker must be informed to the OSHA objectives and how they can contribute to the success of the OSHA management system. Next subclause is communication. For ISO 40001, implement and maintain process needed for internal and external communication relevant to environmental management system, which include what, when, with, whom, and how. Determine internal and external communications relevant to quality management system, which include what, when, with whom, how, and who for ISO 9001. While ISO 45001 is implement and maintain process needed in internal and external communication relevant to OSHA management system, which include what, when, with, whom, and how. For the last subclause of clause 7, which is 7.5, documented information for ISO 40001 necessary for the effectiveness of EMS and competence of persons doing work under organization's control. ISO 9001 necessary for the effectiveness of QMS and competence of person, and for ISO 45001 is necessary for the effectiveness of the OSHA management system and competence of workers. Next, I'm going to explain about clause 8, which is operation. For 8.1, which is operation planning and control, I highlight that organizations shall establish, implement, control, and maintain the process needed and to implement the action. Also control plan changes and review the cases of unintended changes for ISO 40001 and ISO 9001. For ISO 45001, which is reduction of OSHA risk using the hierarchy of control. For subclause 8.2, which is emergency preparedness and response, it is stated for ISO 40001 and 9001 only, which is establish, implement, control, and maintain the process needed to prepare for and respond to potential emergency situations. Since ISO 9001 focus more about quality management system that helps organization meet the needs of their customer, hence it has requirements for products and services, different version for either as ISO.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Akmal Danish bin Ahmad Zaidi. My matrix number is 2023873562, and I will continue for clause 9, which is performance evaluation. 9.1 Monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. For ISO 14001, 9.1.1 General, the organization must ensure that calibrated or verified monitoring and measurement equipment is utilized and maintained appropriately. Next, 9.1.2 Evaluation of compliance. The organization must create, implement, and maintain the necessary mechanisms to assess compliance with its obligation. Compared to the ISO 9001, in general 9.1.1, the organization must assess the effectiveness and efficacy of the quality management system. 9.1.2 Evaluation of compliance. The company will keep an eye on how well consumers view the degree of fulfillment of their demands and expectations. Next, going through the 9.1.3 Analysis and evaluation, the organization shall analyze and evaluate appropriate data and information arising from monitoring and measurement. Next, on ISO 45001, in general, the company will review the system of OH and safety management. In 9.1.2 Evaluation of compliance, ISO 45001 state that the organization must create, execute, and manage systems to assess compliance with legal requirements and other obligations. Next, moving on 9.2 Internal audit. In ISO 40001, 9.2.1 General, the organization shall conduct internal audits at planned intervals to provide information on whether the EMS conforms to the organization's own requirements for its quality management system. Next, the requirement of these international standards. In 9.2.2 Internal Audit Program, the organization must guarantee that the findings of the audits have been reported to the appropriate management. Compared to ISO 9001, In internal audit program, the organization must develop, implement, and manage an audit program that includes the frequency, techniques, responsibilities, consultation, planning requirements, and reporting. This program should examine the significance of the process involved and the findings from prior audits. Compared to ISO 45001, in 9.2.1 general, the organization shall conduct internal audits and at a planned intervals to provide information on whether the OH and safety conforms to the organization's own requirement for its OH and HMS, including the OH and S policy and OH and S objective. Next, the requirement of these documents. In 9.2.2 internal audit program, the organization must guarantee that the relevant audit findings are distributed to workers as well as to the workers' representative and other relevant stakeholders. In 9.3 management review, ISO 14001 states that top management has to regularly evaluate the organization's EMS to ensure that it remains appropriate, sufficient, and efficient. The management review shall include consideration of the status of action from previous management reviews, and also the extent to which environmental objective has been achieved. In ISO 9001, in 9.3.1 general, the management should regularly evaluate the QMS to ensure its suitability, adequacy, effectiveness, and alignment with the organization's strategic direction. In 9.3.2, management review inputs. When planning and conducting the management review, it is important to consider first, the progress made from the previous reviews, and second, identifying and addressing shifts in both external and internal factors that impact the QMS. In 9.3.3, management review output. The output of management review shall include decisions and actions related to opportunities for improvement and any needs for the change to the QMS. In ISO 45001, top management should regularly evaluate the organization's OH&S management system to ensure its applicability, sufficiency, and efficacy. The management review shall include the consideration of the status of action from previous management reviews and the extent to which OH&S policy and objective has been achieved. Next, I will continue explaining about clause 10, which is improvement. In 10.1 general, ISO 14001 state that to accomplish the intended outcomes of its environmental management system, in ISO 9001 to meet the customer requirements and enhance customer satisfaction, in ISO 45001 to achieve the intended outcomes of its occupational health and safety OH&S management system. In 10.2, non-conformity and corrective action. First, we look at ISO 14001. Upon the occurrence of a conformity, the organization is required to respond to the non-conformity, to assess the necessity of action, to execute any necessary acts, evaluate the efficacy of any corrective actions taken, and lastly, modify the EMS. Looking at ISO 9001, when a conformity occurs, the organization is required to respond to the non-conformity, assess the necessity of action, execute any necessary corrective measures, evaluate the efficacy of any corrective measures implemented, revise the risks and opportunities identified during the planning process, and lastly, make changes to the QMS. Organization retain documented information as evidence of the nature of non-conformities and any subsequent actions taken and the results of any corrective action. Next, looking at ISO 45001, when a conformity occurs, the organization shall react in a timely manner to incident or non-conformity, evaluate with the precipitation of workers and the involvement of other relevant interested parties for the corrective action. Reviews existing assessment to occupational health and safety and other risks as appropriate, determine and implement any action needed, assess occupational health and safety risks that relate to the new change or hazards, and lastly, review the effectiveness of any action taken. Documented information is retained by organizations as evidence of incident or non-conformity details and action, and the result of any action, corrective action including the effectiveness. Lastly, 10.3 Continual Improvement. In ISO 14001, the organization shall continually improve the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of EMS to enhance environmental performance. In ISO 9001, the organization shall continually improve the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of QMS. The organization also shall consider the result of analysis and evaluation and the outputs from the management review to determine if there are needs or opportunities that shall be addressed as a part of continual improvement. Lastly, looking at ISO 45001, the organization shall continually improve the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of occupational safety and health system by enhancing occupational health and safety performance, promoting a culture that supports an occupational health and safety management system, promoting the participation of workers in implementing actions, communicating the relevant results of continual improvements to workers and where they exist, workers' representative, and lastly, maintaining and retaining documented information as evidence of continual improvement. That's all from me. Thank you.